University of Arizona.
Okay, thank you, Como. We certainly appreciate having her. She's been a great help so far, so we're blessed to have her. Thank you.
I'd like to announce we are live streaming this, and this meeting is being recorded, in case anybody did not notice that. Chris, could you go ahead with the agenda and
sure,
each of the items that you've got?
Okay, sure. So for the next thing would be, so looking at the approved permit well information, since this was since the June 9th meeting, I think we could probably go through this very quickly, because I think you have, we sent ahead an attachment A, which is a little summary of the approved permits, kind of a little bit about the information that was on those permits, what zone and all of that, and some of the well details and the operator details. So recently we had the Cobalt Group, which was a permit for the 2023 31 Jeffers. We also had Pinta South Operating Company, permit number 1286 and 1287 for the 1510 SD and the 2312 SD respectively, approved and permitted. And then we had Myriad Resources, permit numbers 1288, 1289, the Rattlesnake 115, and the Aztec 135. And then
Chris, let me interrupt you. This is Chairman Thorwald.
Go ahead.
Since this is a public meeting, we have the documents, the public does not. So if you could go through as you talk about what each of the permits are for.
Sure, and we did post the documents as part of the posting or the Gov delivery. So yes, but table one, and I was going to do that right after we did the permits, but you can see the table right here is for the permits that we approved between June 9th and now, our meeting on the 21st here, we see 1285 through 1290. And so respectively, the Cobalt Group, Pinta South was 2 wells, Myriad, and then was another 2 wells, and then Desert Mountain Energy is the Oheco 29-1 that's approved. Most of these are helium wells, with the exception of Rattlesnake 115, which is kind of a combination oil gas helium well. And so based on the permitting information, you can see the counties and some of the elevation data and the total depths desired to drill to, with the formations being targeted there, at least right now. So that information comes off of the permits. So it's information that'll be up on the GIS map when we upload them up to that.
Yeah, Chris, this is Dale Nations.
Yeah, go ahead, Dale.
Thank you for doing that. This is
sure.
This is very appreciated.
Sure. Well, we'll do that. We'll continue to do that for you, Chairman.
Now, will these be maintained, or will they just be replaced by more up-to-date figures?
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll submit a table that's up to date for just the meetings, but we have them all summarized. So at any time we could present all of the data, but right now what we're doing for the meetings is just being able to update you with what's been approved right then and there, and some of these details here. But this is still, we have this summarized. We have this already in our files and in our records. So yeah.
Well, so congratulations. You did a good job.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner. We appreciate it. So going back to the agenda, that's pretty much the update on all of the approved permits that we had. So unless there's any questions from the commissioners, we can go on to item B.
Hey, Chris, this is Joe Dixon with State Land. Only comment we had on the table, it'd be nice if we could see the township and range in there too.
Sure.
Location. Yeah.
Okay, sure. We can add that to there. Sure.
Thank you.
All right.
This is Dale Nations. I didn't quite understand what he said.
He wanted to, but Commissioner Nations, he wanted to ask for us to add the township and range, section township range information onto the table, which we can certainly do because that comes off of the permit as well. So yeah.
Good idea.
Yep. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. So any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to item B, which is some of the activity and pending permits. We have some permits in-house for Pinta South, Pinta Dome, and Desert Mountain Energy. We have about 7 or 8 permits between these companies that we're looking at right now and reviewing. Some of them we have most of the information in-house and just waiting for some other additional documentation to come in prior to making a determination on approval for those. So it's kind of exciting. We have about 7 or 8 right now that we're working on, but just to kind of give you some of the pending permit activity right now. Then for item C, drilling activity since the meeting that we had on June 9th, we had the spudding of Pinta South 1510, which was on June 26th. We did get some information about completion on that, and what they're going to do with that well is still a bit up in the air pending, but I'm in touch with the operator about what the goals are and the targets are for that well as we move forward. And then on item 2 there underneath C is the spudding of the Cobalt Jeffers well that we approved back on as you saw earlier, is scheduled to be drilled August or September of this year. So we're kind of keeping a close eye on in contact with Cobalt on that as they get ready to spud that well. So if there's no questions on those 2 items, we'll go to item D, which is part of the Orphan Well Grant Program updates, which you have is attachment B, and we can show, and we'll show the attachment B. The attachment was part of the posting that we did. Right now, on some of the budget updates, we have permit revenue was $425 so far for FY23, and we do have some other applications that we think are coming in, so that revenue may increase a little bit here over the next few months. Then the DOI grant budget is $10,920,000. Expenditures have been about 1.57 million, and I think right now we're closer to 1.9 million as of the last number that I saw, but at least the 1.5 million is definitely in there. And then FY24 DOI grant expenditures are $219,869. Currently, we are moving towards task 2, which is to have the contractors go out and look at all of the wells that we have inventoried or looked at internally from the records file reviews, to go out and characterize those wells, to actually get their hands and feet around those wells, to actually determine what kind of state they're in, but also do some basic sampling around there to determine if there's any surface contamination in the soil, and then any groundwater contamination if they can detect groundwater in the well, but also do methane emissions monitoring or checking as they go see these wells. So the goal is in this task is to be able to go out there and physically locate the well on our list. So that's what we're beginning to do. We have the proposals that we're about to finalize and approve here probably in the next week or so. And then they're going to start going out to the field to see those wells. Any questions from the commissioners on that? And then you can see here, we started with about 246. We're kind of down and kind of whittled down to about 165 right now that we're definitely kind of going to take a look at. And then you see a breakdown of the project managers of kind of those wells a little bit. The average cost per date per well that we've spent is about $5,800. So that probably will go up a little bit for sure during this next task. And then as we move into the plugging phase and remediation reclamation phase, I'm sure the average cost per well will start to go up a bit from those. Okay, so moving on.
Hey, Chris.
Oh yes,
Chris, this is Mike Conway.
Go ahead, Mike.
So the total number of orphan wells at this point of interest are 160 plus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we started with 246, and based on one thing or another, whether we found they were a water well and they had a registration or something like that, right? We started whittling them down. So now we're down to 165. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And so this is kind of our budget. This was kind of the updates that we provided to you, the commissioners, when we sent that a couple of weeks ago. And so we also have the self-reporting tool, which is, for anybody online who thinks they have an orphan well that they've come across, that it's on their property, they can use this tool and be able to report that to us, and then we can go out and investigate that. So far, we've had some people use that tool to be able to report any kind of a well they think they have on their property or that may be of a concern. So that's been pretty good so far. So,
Chris,
yeah.
as Chairman Thorwald,
Yes.
several questions. Slow down a little bit, would you?
Okay.
And give everybody a little more opportunity to ask you, have questions.
Sure.
How many? What's been the? What publicity have we had to let people know about the tool to report it?
Well, I think we've had so far a couple of media requests, several media requests, at least 2 of them, where I think Daniel did a interview with the news on that, and we've mentioned about the program and the tools and the things that are available to report those wells.
Right, we had that before, but I was just wondering what else we've had, what other things we're doing to get it out to the public so we can find out about these things.
Yeah, we're working right now internally with Brooke and with Wendy Flood to be able to work on our community engagement program, which is to really go out and get talk to the cattlemen's associations or the ranchers associations, and to be able to. I've talked with Brooke about maybe doing some town meetings or something where we can kind of start talking to municipalities, and then we also have ADQ has done some social media posting about the program and the tools that are available for them to report these wells. So we're kind of working on all fronts a little bit. And so we're kind of nailing down some ways and kind of getting our strategy in place, and then going out to do that as we execute it, as we come up with the plan.
Of the wells that you've looked at so far, how many have needed some type of work? Or
right now, the 106, go ahead.
Or that needed to be plugged, or there was a surface work that needed to be done. What have you found so far?
Okay, so far during this phase is really primarily where they're actually getting out in the field to do a lot of that characterization work to determine the nature of the well and what conditions they're in. But we do know from some of the wells that they have casing in them. I can't tell you really how many. I would say at least half of the 165 that I think I've seen where we've seen that they do have casing in them. So those are definitely on the more high priority list to verify and probably to earmark for plugging. So what we're having the contractors do now is to go out and put their eyes and ears and hands on the well, get the characterization done, and then also do some sampling to determine any sites that may be contaminated one way or another, either soil and or groundwater. So that is part of this phase primarily.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Any other questions? Okay. So with that, we can probably go back to the agenda right now and see where we're at. On the agenda, we've kind of talked about the budget a little bit. So the self-reporting tool. So it is available. We have the link there. Then in item 3, we have the wells moving to phase 2. We talked about the task order 2, which is the site characterization piece. And then we're working now with, in item number 4, we're continuing to work with the Groundwater Protection Council on the RBDMS database. So we have given our comments back to the GWPC on the database itself, where they are so far, and kind of our feedback back to them. And then we're in the process of having a meeting scheduled to kind of move forward on integrating our feedback into some of the modules that we do have and give feedback on, and then also working on the next module, which is the plugging module. That will be the next phase of the project. We will move from the database portion of it and then move into the plugging phase of it.
What are Administrator Frank Thorwald here? What are the different modules that are in there?
Okay, right now in the one the first module, more of the database, it's the editor module. It allows us to input the wells themselves, a lot of information about the wells, and then the bonds themselves. So we're tracking the bonds. And then the third piece was, if I remember correctly, was what was the third piece? Yeah, we have the dashboard that is also able to give us some of the graphing and the charting based on it. But that's basically, those are the features of the editor module. And then in the plugging module will be more related to the specific plug and abandonment portion of it.
What of that will be available to the public on the website?
Not sure what the timeline is for the public. Right now, we're in the phase of just being able to give them feedback and get the modules in place. So I would say we're probably a little ways away from releasing it right now. So we could probably get a timeline together for you and update you on the next mid update between now and the next meeting. Update you kind of on a timeline where we think that might get released. But right now, we haven't gotten any feedback from the vendor, from GWCC, about when that may happen. So we are meeting with them, though, next week.
Thank you.
Yep.
Chris, this is Mike Conway.
Sure.
Have you guys given any thought to perhaps putting together or pulling together a video recording of some of the parameters of site characterization to share with the public so they can visually make that connection?
Yes, I thought, and I've talked with Brooke and with Wendy and everything about some of our plans for the community engagement pieces would be some videos. Yes, I really wanted to. That was one thing that I wanted to try to do, was to put some informational videos on different topics together. And so I'm going to work with Brooke and Wendy as they kind of look into the community engagement piece, then also work with our communications department to be able to see about how we can put some of those spots together. Sure.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
This is Commissioner Thorwald. That would be good on the website as well to have.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I was hoping that we could have a series of videos on different topics that we could release to the website and be able to have the public. I really wanted to envision the website as kind of a place where the public could go and get a lot of information from it ultimately. Yes. And so, yeah, that's kind of exciting. That's exciting about looking into that. On item 5, the University of Arizona, we are currently still having them work on our files to be able to compare our files, make sure that they're documenting any files that need to be rescanned in. And so they're currently a sub-awardee for doing that kind of work. So they're taking all of our historical files, comparing them, looking at them, making sure that any data that needs to be rescanned in that we haven't scanned in gets rescanned. And we have we have everything in electronic format eventually. So is there any questions about that? And they're continuing to work on that. And they still probably, we look at maybe them finishing up maybe this fiscal, but they still have a little ways to go.
Hey, Chris, this is Mike Conway again.
Yeah.
Will these
Yes.
files be held in a document repository that the public will have access to?
I would say ultimately that they would be on file for the public to request the access to. Sure. As part of any kind of public access request, any documents that come in that are available and they're not still under confidentiality would certainly be able to be released to the public if under a public records request. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
This is Commissioner Thorwald.
Yes.
What will be on the GIS system for that's open to the public of this?
The orphan wells, I think, are going to be on the GIS system, and then yeah, the orphan well map will be up there, and then information related to those, and then continuing on with what we have on the GIS map for the regular well. I would say regular wells, meaning wells that are permitted and approved. We would continue to upload the permit application information, and then any information that moves beyond the confidentiality term or period, we would have available to the public under public records request would be well logs or completion reports or production reports or any of those kinds of reports.
Well, that's what I was really getting at. Well, what
Yeah.
new things, if any, will be added to the to those files for the public under the new system?
It's possible that once the confidentiality expires on some of the after effects of drilling, some of the documentation that's released or that expires under confidentiality, we could certainly upload for public inspection if that's possible, or something that we can do as a kind of a service to the public. Sure. Otherwise, they're always welcome to ask for that information under a request, and we can certainly fulfill those requests.
Thank you.
Yep, sure. Okay, moving on to item E, the 5-year review report. So item I, number 1 under there is what's before you, commissioners, is to consider a vote on the 5-year review report, which was attachment C. Attachment C was the report that was sent to each of the commissioners for review and voting on. So I will kind of turn that over ultimately to you, but just to give you some background is next week we have a meeting with GERC to be able to present this to them. This document identifies areas of the rules that we would like to see changed or modified. Of course, you know, our rules are a bit antiquated and in need of updating. So we've put together this report for GERC to establish what rules and where in the rule we would like to make some changes, what's been effective, what's not been effective, and kind of update, you know, kind of come up with the times on the rules. So that's the document that's before you to vote on this morning.
This is Chairman Thorwald. Excuse me. Commissioners, most of this is from the reports that we got years ago from the AZOGCC, and that we were never able to get done because of staffing shortages. So most of this you've gone through in the past and approved, but there are a few new things in here. In the 5-year review report, it should be pretty much all of what we've already looked at. There's another section in here of things that will be changed that were also in that AZOGCC report, plus a few other things that hadn't been previously, like pore space. So, yeah, are there any questions on any of these sections in there?
This is Chairman. This is Commissioner Nations. I don't know if you're open to typographical changes. I have one small graphic error that, as a former professor, it bothers me. So,
absolutely, Dale. Anything you spot.
Okay, on page 11, section E4, there's one word which is misspelled. It's affected and should be affected with an A.
So there's a grammar thing. Okay.
Yeah. It's a typical typographical error, but I don't like to see that.
Dale, while we're on this, just a quick note. I'm the vice chairman of GERC now, so I cannot sign this document when once we approve it. If we approve it, you'll need to sign it, and they'll send you. They'll talk to you. The staff will talk to you about the submittal document.
Okay, I'm ready to move on this.
Oh, so am I. It's been too many years.
This is Chairman. This is Commissioner Nations. I move to adopt attachment C of the 5-year review report as corrected.
Do we have a second?
This is Commissioner Cooper. I second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bill, aye.
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 Any nays or hearing none, the motion carries. Administrator Schmidt, do you want to move on to the next section?
Yes, sure. The next item on our agenda was up before the commissioners for vote is to vote on submittal of the 5-year review report, which was attachment D. So this was what we have, or what we call the petition or the petition letter. Is that that's kind of what we're looking at. Yeah. So, so this was our letter to go ahead and it's kind of a cover letter for the 5-year rule review report. So this is the one that Commissioner Nations would sign on behalf of the commissioners for submittal to GERC.
You just need to take my name off of it.
Yes, we're going to modify it and have Commissioner Nations' name added to that.
Any discussion, any changes on that? Is that all right with the commission?
I'll have a motion. This
Go
is
ahead,
Commissioner Nations. I move to approve the submittal of the 5-year report.
Do we have a second?
This is Commissioner Cooper. I will second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? The motion carries. We've got it submitted. Administrator Schmidt, you want to move on to the next item?
Sure. Item F in our agenda is rulemaking. Under that agenda item, we have up for the commissioners to vote on a request for an exemption or exception from the rulemaking moratorium, which is attachment E. This is our exception request that's going to, and the language that's going to go to the governor's office for signing off on allowing us or approving for us to go ahead with rulemaking. And this was sent to the commissioners for review ahead of this meeting, and it is part of the attachments that was up for the public as well.
Any discussion on this? Any changes? Do I hear a motion to approve this?
This is Commissioner Nations.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I move to approve the request for an exemption from the rulemaking moratorium.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, this is Mike Conway. I second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Hearing none, we have the motion passes. Administrator Schmidt, would you move on to the next item?
Okay. Yes, thank you, commissioners. Item G on our agenda is the Arizona Oil and Gas Conservation Commission website updates. Beginning with the first item, I guess overall, I just wanted to mention that we have a kind of a new website that's under development right now, and I think that's about a few weeks away from being released. I think we have our staff working on it, and so I'm kind of excited to see that. I haven't had the opportunity to see the framework of it yet, but I hear it's very nice, so I'm looking forward to that. But as far as website updates, we've uploaded links to resources. So some of the resources that weren't available, before, sometimes some of the links were broken because the documents weren't being housed by the Arizona Geological Survey in the same places where they were. We've kind of went back and re-uploaded those links and uploaded those resources again. So it's good to see that those technical articles are back up on the website. Then we've also added meeting dates and agendas. So we have the save the dates that will be posted prior to meeting dates. So we have established the next several commission meetings and their dates coming up, so we can go ahead and start working on agendas early on, and then also letting the public know that to save the date for when that comes up and to be out on the lookout for the agenda when we post it. Our goal is to try to get agendas posted about a week to a week and a half before the meeting. So we're trying to be a lot earlier in getting those agendas up for public consumption.
Chris, this is Mike Conway. I haven't been out to look at the oil and gas viewer recently. What kind of shape is that in these days?
The GIS map?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty up to date as far as I know.
Okay.
We have a few permits since that we've approved here recently that we have to just still upload to it, but I feel like it's pretty well up to date. I know the mapping system. The way I think it's working out is that the orphan well and the wells that are already permitted and approved, let's say the active, I want to say the active wells, are married together, and that you can see both of those. They're kind of layers on top of one another, or at least that's the way I understand it. So I feel like everything is fairly up to date right now, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, sure.
A couple, this is Chairman Thorwald, a
Yes,
couple
Chairman.
points here. On the website, the reason we don't have minutes anymore to approve is because the meetings, the recordings of the meetings are minutes, and anybody can go to look at those. Those are on the website and on YouTube that are being stored there. My question I have is the training for the materials that we've received for staff, for oil and gas staff and DQ and the commissioners. Is that up on the website yet? And if not, when will it be?
No, that is not on the website yet. We do have, I think, available to those who did attend, wanted to see those videos. We did have like an email link, a link to them. They're right now still under a private place on YouTube.
And they always will be, but I meant
Yeah.
when I wanted to let everybody know where they could go to get that on the staff. This is internal documents.
Okay, we'll work on that. And I'll kind of get with Brooke on determining a timeline of what we can do about seeing if we can get them up in short order. We'll see what we can work on. Yeah.
We'll have all of this available to all. This is all internal training for, as I mentioned, for water, air, land, the AG's office, oil and gas, the commissioners. So it's a lot of good information that we've had in the past, as well as the additional training we've gotten from the Texas Railroad Commission.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I'll talk to Brooke about having maybe a place on the website we can do kind of a login or something to see those. Yep, absolutely. Okay.
Okay, Administrator Schmidt, if you would like.
Okay. And then moving on to agenda item H was the approval of a couple of forms. The first one is up before the commissioners on confidentiality request form. That was attachment F. The reason we put this form together was one of the things that we wanted to do was be more diligent about letting operators know when the 60-day timeline is approaching that their confidentiality expires on some documentation, such as completion reports, production reports, anything of an exploratory nature, logs, or any of those kinds of things. So in doing that and making notice to the operators that their confidentiality is going to expire, because per rule, the commission has to notify the operator that confidentiality will expire within 60 days of their first year, that confidentiality is extended, that we wanted to allow them the ability to provide us with a form that says they want to continue that. And so this form is really just something for our records that they can fill out. It's not mandatory or it's not required, but it's something that we would like to extend to them to do so that we can keep it on record that they did ask for those additional up to 2 years. So this form is up for voting by the commissioners to approve or not.
Commissioners, is there any questions on these forms or any changes that you'd like to see?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Cooper. Perhaps we should add the administrative regulation that references confidentiality so that an applicant can go to it to see if the grounds they're seeking actually will meet our administrative regulation for confidentiality.
Great idea, Commissioner
Okay.
Cooper.
Yep.
We could do that in a hyperlink.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be perfect.
Mhm.
Any other changes? Do I have a motion to approve this as amended?
This is Commissioner Cooper. I would make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that. This is Commissioner Nations.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
The motion carries. It is approved.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. And then the second form that's up for voting on is what we call an application to drill payment form. This helps us and our staff kind of be able to kind of coordinate or corroborate all of the payments that we get on applications to drill with a well name and a number and an operator. Sometimes the operators will send in a check and they do not specify on the memo line what well that goes to or what application they're referring to. And so sometimes it's a little difficult for staff to figure out which well it's or which application it's going to without going back and forth with the operator. We're trying to figure that out. So what we did was put this form together to kind of allow us to take the checks and the form together and be able to process those. So once an application to drill is made, we would send this form out to them to make sure that when they pay, they can fill out this form and submit it back to us. And then we can keep that for our records.
Any changes, recommendations, commissioners? Hearing none, do we have a vote to approve this, a motion to approve this?
This is Commissioner Cooper. I move to approve the application to drill permit form that's presented at this meeting.
Do we have a second?
This is Mike Conway. I'd second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. It's approved.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to our chairman, Mr. Thorwald, if you would take it away.
Okay, item 4, the Interstate Oil and Gas Compact. We'll have our fall meeting in Utah. One of the things that have been brought up in the past is carbon credits and how that affects the state. Arizona is not allows carbon credits, but there's no cap and trade system here. With regard to the states are trying to figure out what to do with carbon credits, how it can be worked out, what money is available to be received from carbon credits. From what I understand, it's you can get a higher fee for carbon credits in Europe right now than in the United States. So it's there's discussions going on how that can be resolved. And this ties into of course, the CO2 sequestration and the fees that can be derived from that sequestration, which is potentially another source of revenue for both are potential sources of revenue for the commission as we move forward in this carbon-free environment that's being talked about. So that is currently being worked on, and it's being expedited and discussed with the legislature to put in for later in this year, because we have some companies out there that are planning on pulling out helium and will be pulling out carbon as well, CO2, and will be re-injecting that. So is there any questions on that? Hearing none, let's move on to the B, appointment of commissioners. I spoke a few months ago with the governor's office on boards and commissions and found out that all but 2 of us, myself and one other, their commissions have expired somewhere around 10 to 13 years ago. So the governor's office was trying to reach out to everybody. And I had sent them a note. Mike, they were having trouble reaching you. Commissioner Conway. So I hope that you've been able to talk to them since then. And
Chairman Thorwald, I have not heard from them at all.
Okay. Can you give them a ring?
Sure. Who is it I'd be calling and talking with?
I sent you an email.
Okay.
With that about a week ago.
All right, I'll go look that up then.
And
thank you.
It has their contact information and their email information.
Okay.
Chris, Administrator Schmidt, would you also copy Commissioner Conway on that?
Sure.
Who wants to remain on the commission and who does not?
This Commissioner Nations, I'd like to continue.
Okay.
Commissioner Fire-Robin, I'd like to continue.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Cooper. I have advised the governor's office on boards and commissions that I did not wish to reapply, and I've told them that I am willing to basically continue to serve until they could find an appropriate replacement. I've been on the board 16 years. I've really enjoyed working with the chairman and also with Dr. Nations. It's basically been quite eye-opening. And I've looked at the two of you over the years to basically kind of bring me up to speed on matters involving policy and geology. But after 16 years, I'd kind of like to do something a little different for the state. I think that we've got a full board now. We've got some really good commissioners on board. And I think that probably there's somebody out there that could probably do a better job than I could as a commissioner. So that's why I've asked not to be reappointed, and I've declined applying.
Okay. Commissioner Nations, has the governor's office reached out to you yet?
I have not heard anything.
Okay, you may want to reach out. Administrator Schmidt, would you give Commissioner Nations their contact information? Bill, have they reached out to you as well?
No.
Would you also give Commissioner Fire-Robin that same contact information?
Okay, yeah.
And I told him I'm happy to stay as well. So, and also, if anybody has any recommendations or somebody else that they think would be good on the commission, please pass that on to them as well.
I have a quick comment.
Go ahead.
Okay. I feel like Commissioner Cooper has, through all the meetings, made some really good comments, looking from his viewpoint, at, the legal viewpoint. And I would like to be sure that we try that the replacement for him comes with a legal background.
Duly noted, Commissioner Cooper. I personally would like to I know you're going to be around a lot longer, but I'd just like to personally thank you. I've tremendously enjoyed working with you, and you over the years have contributed greatly, as of course, Minister Nations has, and it's how do I put it? Over the years since I've been chairman, it's very big shoes to fill for Commissioner Nations, since he's done a great job over these years. And Commissioner Cooper, you have been fantastic and had great insight where everybody else missed it. So I just wanted to say thank you.
I appreciate the comments, but I did suggest to the commission's boards that they consider Jim Ballard. I think that's like drafting Kevin Durant for the team.
Thank you. Any other suggestions for the boards and commissions on who else might be on the commission? No. Okay. Very good. Let us move on to call to the public. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the commission? You have a few moments, and since we are on YouTube and live now. We need to give them a few minutes to connect to us, if there is anybody out there.
Hey, Frank, this is Joe Dixon with State Land. I kind of echo Stephen's comment there too about Jim Ballard would be a great choice for a commissioner there. I had one question too about the rules. I know over the years we've been talking about the bond amounts and stuff. I think it's specifically R12-7103. And I was just curious, is there anything in the new rules about bond amounts that would be, raised or anything there?
Yeah, that's one of two things where one of the main focuses, two areas, right? One is the permit fees and the other one is the bond amounts. Yes.
Okay. Was there any specific numbers for the bonds there? I was kind of asking that too, because it's kind of ironic that Jim Ballard had made it, there's something in there about the public comments received about the rules, and Jim Ballard was talking about bond amounts and stuff and adjusting for inflation and that kind of stuff there.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things. That's one of the things we looked at. Not necessarily in super in detail about the bonds, although I would say that I think they're a bit low, but along with the permit fees for sure. But also we had a contractor go out and do kind of an assessment of fees and fee schedules from 4 other states that were kind of like our state. And so, in looking at that, yes, we did find that the permit fees could use addressing, but also looking at the bond amounts. And I think I know what you're talking about with Jim is I do agree that the bond amounts are a bit low, and when it costs anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 to plug a well, and you have a $25,000 bond, but also the number of wells that those bonds cover. That's also, something we may want to look at too. So yes, we are zeroing in on those things. Yes, with changes.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Again, call to the public. No, but hearing none, let's move on to item 6, request for future agenda items. I would like to add a couple things on that myself. One, discussion on the bond and the coordination of bonds between between oil and gas, DEQ, land. I'd like to add where we are on sharing of data between land, DWR, oil and gas, and DEQ, and also on conversion of water wells, conversion of wells to water wells, and the standardization or harmonization between DEQ, DWR, and oil and gas. And I'd also like to add legislation to the agenda as well.
Okay. All right, noted.
Commissioners, is there anything else that you would like to see added? Anything else? Dale, Commissioner Nations, is there anything else you'd like to see on the future agenda?
No, I don't have anything that's on my mind right now.
Okay, fantastic. Any announcements? Moving on to item 7.
This is Commissioner Nations.
Yes.
I don't want this to appear to be self-serving, but I've just recently published a book that I think is very relevant to the Oil and Gas Commission and the utilization of Arizona resources. So I just want to call attention to that. I published it, wrote it with 2 Navajo people, one of whom was a geologist, former student of mine. And it covers not only the geology of the reservations, the Navajo and the Hopi reservations, but it also, about a third of the book is actually devoted to the Navajo culture. And there's a lot of language in it that's part of the Navajo language. So I think it's very appropriate for people on the commission to be aware of it. And I'd just like to show you a picture of it, if whenever this can be. Oh, there it is. It's just a small book.
Dale, can you read? Dale, can you read the title? I can't make it
Yeah,
out.
it's backwards. It's Navajo Traditional Stories and the
Okay.
Science of Geology.
Excellent. Thank you.
So there's about 120 pictures in it of geologic features, mainly just stratifying, just going through the stratigraphic record from the bottom of the Grand Canyon through the Black Mesa on the Navajo and Hopi reservations. So anyway, it's something that I just wanted to call attention to it.
And who is that published by, and can we get autographed copies there? Yeah.
I'm sorry they didn't provide any free copies to me. But they only cost $23, so most of us could afford it.
Really? So who published that?
Kendall Hunt.
Kendall, okay, thank you.
That reminded me of something that I forgot with regard to future agenda items. I'd like to see us have a discussion with the commissioners on what other training staff needs, things that DEQ, what they would like to see as well. And also, I'd love to get a presentation from Commissioner Nations on where he sees the oil and gas and strategic minerals operations here in the state. What's the potential outside of the tribal nations here in the state for oil, for gas, and for other strategic materials that would come under our preview? Commissioner Nations, if you'd be willing to do that, that would be very helpful, I feel.
Yeah. Now, how did you want me to do that?
At one of our future meetings, just have we just carve out a time where you could make a presentation on that for everybody.
Sure. Yeah, I've actually written a couple of times on that subject a couple of times, so I could point that out also. I think it's been on our website, the oil and gas of Arizona, potential of Arizona.
And you and I have talked about it in the past, and I know made joint presentations, but we've got new people on here, and it's been some years, so I think it would be a great update.
Yeah, I could actually just show it's a PowerPoint presentation, and that would cover basically what you're asking.
That would be great. If we could schedule that in, that would be great, Administrator.
Okay. Yeah, Commissioner Thorwell, we can work with Commissioner Nations to do that and just get that on the agenda when he's ready. One of the upcoming agendas, sure.
Fantastic.
Commissioner Feyerabend.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, I personally have been working on the mineral exploration for the strategic and critical metals. If you'd like kind of some feedback too, or whatever, Commissioner Nations, I'd be glad to work with you a little bit.
What might be good is just to have both of you at one of the meetings do a presentation. Each of you do one, and you can coordinate if you like or not.
Yeah.
And there is one other thing that I would like to have on the future agenda too, discussion about potential revenue sources for the commission, and discussion of what the AZOGCC had recommended as far as other revenue sources, because since they had incorporated all 37 states that are producing, not just 4 states, and what had been appropriate for Arizona that would not overburden or drive away potential operators that wanted to come to Arizona. So I'd like to have that on a future agenda as well.
Oh,
all right.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Nations, again, just one last point on that book I just talked about. It's available through Amazon.com.
Thank you, Commissioner Nations.
Excellent.
Is there any other announcements? Hearing none, this meeting of the Arizona Oil and Gas Conservation Commission is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.